Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton. We've been talking about structures with stories. We were talking about drop houses where people that have been brought in across the border may be being held by others, and then what to look for and what to do about it. Now, if you think that you have a building in your community that is housing perhaps people, or maybe it's an illegal pot grow or an illegal drug house, do not get yourself involved in it. Okay, this is a dangerous thing, but do report it to the police. Just, you can call the non-emergency number and just tell them, I'm watching this house. Here's the address. This is what I'm seeing. I'm just a little uncomfortable with it, and maybe somebody wants to do a drive-by or check that out. These are the things that make me kind of suspicious of this whole thing. So it could also be a drug, an illegal pot grow. In those cases, a house is very closed off. It does not look like a family is living there. They will have the windows completely covered. There will be very little normal activity coming and going out of there. They will stay to themselves. The people that are entering may not be able to speak your language, whatever that language is for the community. The electrical hookups on the backside of the house are a lot different, but that may be difficult for you to see. But they historically side wire because of the amount of production that's going on. A lot of times they just gut a rental house like that and set up a lot of pot grow. The water access will be different where they're accessing water because they're growing things. They're doing hydroponics and that kind of thing. The people will stay to themselves. They're not normal living activity. You'll wonder, why don't they ever open the windows or the curtains on something like that? So that is taking place in a lot of residences. Many of you have seen maybe the YouTube and the story where big takedown out in Hemet of a residential pot grow. It was in a tract home right next to two other houses. And yet that entire house was completely covered with that. I want to talk a minute now about businesses as fronts, and then we will go into some other kinds of deals to watch for. But one of the things that we're seeing here is, for instance, small mom-pop bars or the cantinas. In these cases, they'll often be running sex trafficking out of there. In other words, the waitresses are being forced into providing sexual services, or they're bringing in the girls, especially, and they will often be young girls. And so you'll find out that they're being sold in a commercial kind of thing. For instance, a cantina that might have a second floor on it that is only access from the inside. It might have a bar, might have an add-on structure that doesn't have normal access for the clientele, and that can be taking place in that. I just read of a case down in Texas where they were doing fentanyl development and selling in a car rental place. It looked a little more industrial, but they didn't really have customers coming and going, and it had a sign like it was a business. I've heard of several cases where they're promoting prostitution out of salvage yards, where they're approaching a highly percentage of male buyers that go in and out of a salvage yard, and then they hook them up. So it can be a commercial building of various kinds, can be taking place with commercial sex that is going on in there. You have residential brothels. This is taking place in houses, but you will also have them in, and let me just go on that before I go on to the commercial brothels. In the residential, a lot of times it's an apartment building where you'll see a lot of people coming and going. Several of our important cases never would have happened had somebody not reported unusual activity of having a lot of men coming and going. If the women are seen at all, they're often removed late at night and they're moved from one to the other. So if you see that kind of thing, that needs to be reported. We have had several cases where they use short-term rentals or Airbnbs in programs like that in lieu of a motel. Now, we all know that this kind of thing takes place in motels and hotels, that it can also be in houses where it's operated out of the back of a house a lot of times. The front of the house will have a family in it, and the back of the house will have 20, 30 cars a day coming and going in it. And the same kind of thing with apartments or Airbnbs. It'll be a fairly short-term kind of thing in a short-term rental that all of a sudden you have a lot of traffic and it's over. So those are areas where if you see that activity, you can report it and perhaps maybe be able to have law enforcement intervene. One of the things I really don't want you to do is go over to any of these buildings and start asking questions and getting yourself involved. This is the kind of thing where you should see it from a distance and report it. Do not get yourself involved in this. That is not going to be helpful for you or for them. And I wouldn't want anybody out there to get themselves hurt or in trouble. Now, I want to talk about some commercial brothels. And we'll probably go into the next section before this is over. But one of the things, because of SB 357, we're starting to see an increase in things like massage parlors that are not really massage parlors. So let me make something very clear. I'm the first to like a good spa day. Okay, I love that. And there are many, many, many legitimate spas in Riverside in San Bernardino County. So we're not picking on them in any way. But we all know that a lot of times what you'll see is an illicit massage parlor setup. Now, it can also, the case that we had out of Colton, they also were doing this in skincare places and feet, fun feet. That's a popular one that's out there. And they promise happy endings. And if you're starting to see massage parlors with a happy ending, I'd question myself whether I want myself and my husband going in that place. Okay. So we're talking about this. These are really set up so that they don't look like your normal massage parlor. First of all, their hours are a lot different, and they sometimes don't even open till noon, and they go clear up until 10 o'clock or midnight on some of these. They won't have the normal brochure of services. So, if you go into, let's say, Massage MV or someplace like that, they have pre-printed services. They have lots of things that they're offering you, and you know what you're getting into, and it's a legitimate business. But a lot of these commercial brothels that set up, they don't have that. They'll also be very closed off a lot. Now, all massage parlors are closed off because some people have their clothes off back there, depending on what kind of massage you're getting. However, these are particularly closed off. They have unusual hours. And the other thing is that they don't have the same masseuse on a regular basis. They will rotate these girls usually every 6 to 10 days. So even if you should go in there, it's very difficult to get the same girl at any given time. So there's a big turnover. And what you'll see is they're operated completely different. It isn't like it's wide open and welcome and this kind of thing. It's very closed off. You have clientele coming and going, oftentimes not staying for the full hour in that kind of thing. They may have a back entry that they go into, so it's not as obvious that you're having a heavy clientele. So these are called commercial brothels, and I'm going to tell you that because of that law, I think you're going to see a lot more of these kinds of things. Anytime that you have an illegal massage parlor or fun feet or all of those kinds of things, what you'll find is these are about money laundering. In other words, they're bringing in young people from foreign countries. Many of them come in legally with student visas or work visas. Sometimes they come in with their documents where the owner of the property holds their documents. This is true sex trafficking. These people are not here willingly, and they're not getting to keep any of the money that they're earning. These are, I do trainings on these cases. Many of these little small massage parlors are turning $1 million, $5 million, $10 million in sex trafficking money that is being laundered right back to their home country. And those people are true victims because while they're earning that money, they have to turn over all that money to the people that brought them in and are using them in a sex trafficking ring. So these are some different ideas maybe that might open up your eyes. We are coming up against a break, so stay with us. We got one more segment. We'll close this out. So this is Opal Singleton. We're up against that break, and so we'll be right back. Stay with us. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited, Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590. The Answer.
Custom Service Systems, a proud supporter of Million Kids, is a family-owned and operated commercial cleaning company servicing the Inland Empire and surrounding areas since 1974. CSS takes pride in their ability to maintain the business facilities they serve and their long-lasting relationships with their valued clients. CSS provides a variety of cleaning systems customized to client needs, including deep cleaning and disinfectant to be COVID-19 compliant. From basic office cleaning to windows and floors, CSS will clean up your mess so you don't have to stress. Custom Service Systems cares about families and communities and wants to give back. Custom Service Systems are proud supporters of Million Kids to keep kids safe from predators. If you need the best cleaning services for your business or corporation, contact Custom Service Systems at cssclean.com. Again, cssclean.com or call 951-781-9345. That's 951-781-9345. You will know you found the best. Custom Service Systems.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Let me tell you about my friend Doris Anderson at Remax Realty in Upland. She is amazing. She's kind, she's patient, but she listens. And she's informed, and she will help you with your real estate transaction in a way that works for you. Doris, in full disclosure, often supports the work of Million Kids because she cares about young people. But she knows how to analyze a market, how to market a property, and how to find just the right transaction for both buyers and sellers. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate or invest in income property, contact Doris Anderson at Remax Realty 951-733-8899. That's 951-733-8899. 951-733-8899.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. We are talking about structures with stories. And the reason we want you to do this is that we want to keep our community safe. Now, I don't want you getting involved in a way that you're going to be harmed in any way. Absolutely not. Some of you are more nosy than others, okay? So it's a little bit dangerous to ask the public to pay attention because some of you are going to take this to the nth degree. I'm asking you not to do that. What I am asking you is that the future is going to be different in our community. We have a lot of people entering our community that we don't know, and many of them are going to to bring a lot of fine assets and good talent and change our lives for the good. But some of them are being exploited. And it's difficult when you're living in the shadows to figure out who's the perpetrator and who's the victim, and then who is somebody that can be a leader and change our community. But I just want you to take some thought process of, look around your neighborhood, maybe a block area, 2-block area, maybe a smaller area, and just pay attention to this stuff. If you have rental houses in your community, know which ones they are, and when possible, get to know the landlord, because you're doing them a favor also, especially if they're not in the residential area. That's one of the problems that's happened over the time, is a lot of people owned a house and then they rented it out and they don't live in the community anymore. Maybe they moved away or they moved up above in some other community. Then get to know who that landlord is and ask them to notify your neighborhood watch if the property is going to start to come vacant and be up for rentals, so that the neighborhood can kind of keep an eye out for each other. If you get a new renter and suddenly it doesn't look normal, then somebody ought to make note of that, whatever it is that is going on, whether they're not having a normal routine, whether lots of the windows are shut off, maybe you're seeing a lot of late night, early morning activity that isn't like they're going off to work. Just take note of that. And if it looks serious, then I would not be afraid to at least put a mention on it to your local law enforcement that this is what I'm seeing and it's kind of odd. Pay attention to your commercial buildings around you and your warehouses. And especially if you see a lot of activity coming and going in a house that has outbuildings, where perhaps maybe something is going on in that situation. If you live in an area where there are commercial places like massage parlors and like that, just kind of keep an eye on it. And, you can report. I'll give you a anonymous number that you can report on. Now, this is not 911. Nobody's going to come rushing out and check out that building. If you need something that's going to be fairly urgent, you're going to need to contact your local police department and just let them know what you see. But do not put yourself in harm's way. Do not get out there and start taking a bunch of pictures or trying to crawl over the back fence to see what's going on back there, or even get into a dispute with whoever happens to be at the building. Don't do that kind of thing. But pay attention and see if you can't keep your community safer. It's a little bit like what's going on out here in the Riverside County. They're having a lot of these, they're having a lot of mail thefts, they're having a lot of package thefts, and they're also having a lot of catalytic converter thefts. And so the neighborhood gets together and they know who has the Ring cameras or the security cameras. That's another thing that we watch for in a lot of these stash houses, is they'll have cameras in there, but no monitor. That's telling you that it's being remotely monitored by other people. I do also want to add one more thing that just came to me that I forgot about, and that is that there may be from time to time in a residential place that is a stash house, there may be starting to be a smell coming out of there. They have come out with stash houses and drop houses and all across California and Arizona, where there may be as many as 50 people in a house and only one toilet. Over in Phoenix recently, they had one that was just a general kind of tract home, had 108 people held in there. They had to stand up. They had to take turns sitting down. That's how cruel this whole kind of thing is. And that was in a regular residential area that other people could see what was going on. The neighbors couldn't believe it when 108 people poured out of that house. So you might see a thing where they're having toilet problems and sewage problems and things like that. And keep an eye out whether there's food coming and going. 108 people, how do you ever feed 108 people? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. but that's inhumane. All of these are ways for you to pay attention. Share, if you have a Ring camera, share it with the rest of your neighborhood. Talk with your neighbors, know who your neighbors are, and let's keep our community safe. This is important, not only to keep your community safe, but also to be able to prevent someone from being exploited. I honestly believe it doesn't matter who you are, man, woman, child, U.S. citizen or not, you should not be exploited in our neighborhoods, in our communities, with our houses. We've got to look out for fellow man and do what we can to keep our communities safe. This is really, really important when you get into commercial sex and brothels and, starting to see an increase of people selling sex on the street. These kinds of things are going to affect our community. So I think that we really have to look out for each other. I hope this has been helpful to you. I always enjoy meeting all of you. I met so many people over the last week. It was just kind of a fluke, but everywhere I went, it was like, oh, I never miss your show. And I appreciate the information you're putting out and like that. And it makes my heart warm. I hope this information is good for you. Don't get crazy on it. Don't go off and panic that this is, on every street corner. It is not. In fact, that is the problem. It is not on every street corner, so it's not easy to find. But at the same token, I want to keep you safe and your family safe. I believe that we have to look out for each other. And I also think we have to prepare our kids to understand that what is starting out to happen now in our communities is not something that we feel good about and that we're proud and that we endorse. Certainly a woman and a man or trans or anybody else has the right to make decisions about their own body, especially if they're an adult. And that is not what this discussion's about. What the discussion is about is when all of that goes wrong and when someone is being abused or being exploited because of something in their life. And that's what we need to talk to our kids about and say, we need to take the high road and we need to set goals and standards and know who we are. But we also need to care about our fellow man and woman and do what we can to make sure that we can assist where we can to make sure that people aren't being exploited. But in the meantime, these are legal cases. These are law enforcement cases, and you want to keep you and your family safe. So make sure that you protect yourself right off the bat. But let's look around, and if we can, we'll do what we can to keep our community safe and keep each other safe, and have that open discussion with your children that this is who we are and what we stand for, and we feel bad that people are taking that road or they're being brought in. But, we ourselves are going to take the high road and we're going to do the best we can to be the best people we can. I firmly believe that the way that we can help our kids is to tell them and share with them that, the way you succeed is, who you are and what you stand for. And you're not going to take those shortcuts. And when you see people that are being exploited, many of them are taking shortcuts, whether it's coming across the border and paying a coyote or, someone who's been brought in from another state that is being forced into acts where they don't get to keep the money and they're being exploited. And just because they find themselves there doesn't mean that's an end of the road. We need to help them get out and be safe and not be exploited. And that's the role that we can play by looking out for each other. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is brought to you by millionkids.org, MILLION, millionkids.org. I hope that this show is helpful to you. I appreciate each and every one of you that donate to our show. If you want to support our show financially, you can do that by going to millionkids.org and hit that donate button, or it'll give you the P.O. box and send us a check. I go to that P.O. box myself and get your check, and I praise God when I get those checks. You folks have a great week. See you next Saturday at 3 o'clock.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click.
Hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton and we come to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Well, this week has been a real treat for me. I have met, for whatever reason, I have met so many people that listen to this show this week. And it's exciting to hear. It's fun to find out that people are really out there listening. If that's you, I do this massive amount of research and share with you and like that, but I don't know you that are listening. So when I go out and hear you and meet you and find out how you're using the information, it really, really is exciting. For those of you that are new to this show is called Exploited Crimes and Technology. It's all about various kinds of crimes, but specifically focused a lot on things like sex and labor trafficking and online social media exploitation. We often talk about how kids get sextorted and what apps they use and what pedophiles and pimps and like that, what kind of technology they use to seduce our kids and like that. But today I want to talk about something completely different. It's been laying on my heart, and just to give you a little bit of background, we've been doing this about 15 years. I'm the president and CEO of a company called Million Kids. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. If anybody wants to donate and keep this show going regularly, we certainly appreciate your financial support. But for the most part, I deal with sex crimes and crimes especially that are related to our kids. And so I am what they call a post-certified law enforcement trainer. I go a lot across the nation and throughout California and heavily here in Riverside and San Bernardino County of training first responders and people that are, like law enforcement, code enforcement, fire departments, and people like that. I also have spent a great deal of time training in schools with counselors and teachers and students and whenever possible with parents about technology. But one of the things that I've seen over the last couple of 3 months has kind of changed my direction in one of the things that I want to do. I'm known for years and years of research on things like sex trafficking, labor trafficking, the online exploitation, but also things like CSAM, child sexual abuse material, which us old timers know as child pornography, and also things like money laundering and foreign national trafficking and like that. Many of you that have followed this show know that starting January 1st, California implemented a new law, a law that just sends chills up my spine to think about it. That law was called SB 357, and it changed the penal code. It rewrote the penal code for loitering for soliciting for street prostitution. And that changes just about everything in California. What it says is that law enforcement will no longer be able to intervene if you are loitering to solicit for street prostitution. It doesn't say if you're soliciting to buy or sell. That part is not clear. And it is specifically for adults, but I'm very concerned about our young people because if you can't interfere, it's very difficult for someone to look at a 16, 17-year-old kid with makeup on and discern that they might be a minor because they're going to look like they're 19 or 20. And so as I've tried to understand the reasoning behind this law and what's going to happen, I will tell you that I try to guard myself against negativity because I don't see anything good coming out of that bill. And in fact, as you've heard in the previous transmissions of this radio show, It's already started. The district attorney down in San Diego are saying they're bringing in pimps, are bringing in young girls all over from Arizona, specifically a lot from Phoenix area, and putting them out for street prostitution around the naval bases down in San Diego. And it's just already totally out of hand. A good friend of mine over in LA is saying that she counted more than 50 young girls in a 2-block area on Figueroa Avenue over there, which is what is known as a track or blade. And I'm highly predicting that right here in San Bernardino, and hopefully not in San Bernardino or Riverside County, but we have known for years that University Avenue used to be a track, and over there by Fifth and G and areas like that was a track in San Bernardino. Up north, they're seeing them bring in girls from Las Vegas and dumping them out in front of private schools. In one case, a Catholic school for elementary kids, scantily dressed young ladies out there doing whatever the law now allows that to happen. So with this happening, I am predicting that we're just getting started. I mean, this is the first 60 days of the year that these reports have come in. And so in the first 60 days, we're already seeing these kind of changes. So being a trainer on these subjects and a researcher, I've kind of searched my soul about what can we do to help the public protect themselves. And also, what can we do so that we can ferret out those that might be being trafficked? If you don't know the difference, now you can, if you're an adult, you can engage in soliciting for street prostitution, and nobody's going to do anything about it. But that means that you're doing it willingly. But then what we're finding is a lot of these people are not willing participants. They are young people who owe money to somebody, young people who fall in love and are abused and beaten and forced into quotas and like that. But what I also predict is that you're going to see a massive amount of our communities where people are violated, and they're violated right there in front of your area, whether you realize it or not. For instance, we know there's a lot of people crossing the border in unbelievable numbers. We've never seen that before. And many of those people owe money to a coyote and someone who brought them in across the border. And, now instead of out there selling their flowers, they're going to be engaging in street prostitution with the money to go back to the coyote. That is human trafficking. If you're not out there willingly, if someone gives you a quota, if they're threatening you, if you can't go to sleep until you make X number of money, or you're not allowed to eat until you make a certain amount of money, that has gone from voluntary prostitution to becoming a victim of human trafficking. I'm very concerned about homeless people because they need money. And that's very likely to happen. But we're also starting to see a large number of people being imported, for instance, in these massage parlors where they are bringing in girls from Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand and China and Taiwan and like that. And also we just had a case here in Colton with the Paredes family, where they were bringing in young 14-year-old girls and unaccompanied minors and putting them in illicit massage parlors. So what I want to do for the rest of this show is share with you what you might be able to do by educating you about structures with stories. In other words, I normally train to certain behaviors. If this happens, the person's going to behave this way. But one of the things that I've come to understand is this is taking place in buildings right in front of our eyes and within our communities. And one of my passions over the next few weeks is to educate the public, as well as private organizations like fire departments, law enforcement, code enforcement, all those people, what kinds of structures are used in certain kinds of crime. So for the rest of the show, we're going to be talking about about things like commercial brothels, residential brothels. We'll be talking a little bit about how to identify a stash house and a drop house, whether it's for drugs or whether it's for people. And we're going to be talking about how to identify them and what to do. I believe that one of the most important things that we can do is to keep an eye out for the empty houses in our community, for rental houses where people are coming and going, for businesses that seem to be not quite what they appear to be. And so what I want to do is kind of share with you some of the characteristics to watch for. I believe we really have to keep an eye out for each other. Neighborhood watch, I highly recommend that. But we also need to be trained so we know what to look for. And that's what we're going to do in the next couple of segments here. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is brought to you by Million Kids. And please follow us at millionkids.org. Be right back.
Are you tired of eating at the same old restaurants? Let me tell you about a fabulous Italian restaurant we found in Riverside, Mamma Mia's Italian Restaurant. Their caprese salad is exquisite with candied balsamic glaze. All of their sauces are special recipes using only the best olive oils. The salads are fresh and healthy. They offer a wonderful array of pastas, including shrimp scampi, capellini, bolognese, and lasagna. They're famous for their gourmet pizza, and you can order online for takeout or have a special date for dining in with family and friends. Mamma Mia's caters special occasions and host private events. You have to try it out. Mamma Mia's Italian Restaurant, located at 10971 Magnolia Avenue in Riverside, 1 block north of La Sierra on Magnolia. That's Mamma Mia's in Riverside. Be sure to tell Michael, Alex, or Joseph you heard it on AM 590 The Answer.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of millionkids.org. I believe the 4 most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. So we created a challenge coin that says, I believe in you on one side and stand tall, you are loved on the other side. This one-of-a-kind challenge coin is a perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, graduation, Christmas presents, or just an anytime gift for someone you love. What a powerful message for a parent or a grandparent to give to a young person. This 2-inch coin is made of polished gold. It's striking to look at, and it is priceless to hold. It is packaged in a beautiful black velvet gift box. What a great way to leave a legacy of love that will last forever. To purchase this coin, go to millionkids.org/gallery. Each coin is $25. Go to millionkids.org/gallery to purchase and give a legacy of love.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sellers and buyers recognize that these low interest rates will not last. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
AM 590. The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton and we are talking about structures with stories. And what I really want to share with you today is to keep an eye out in your neighborhood. Now, don't get nuts on this, okay? Give your neighbors a break and like that. This is just a general way to keep your eyes out. I'm on this group called Next Door here in Riverside. And, you know, there's a huge amount of catalytic converter stealing going on in this area. And people are always watching out for each other and sharing their Ring camera recordings and things like that. Well, this is kind of what I want us to do, is not become like, you know, just ridiculously stupid, if you will, about it, but just be generally aware and keep it in the back of your head. And what will happen one day is that if you see this, you'll say, that's what that lady was talking about, and you will know what to do about that. So the first thing I want to talk about are what they call stash houses. Sometimes they're called drop houses. Usually it's the stash houses where they put drugs and will distribute drugs. But I want to talk about the drop houses. This has become absolutely massive. I had the pleasure of training over the Arizona Supreme Court and their whole probation department in Arizona. And the district attorney over there said that he believed that there were more than 1,000 drop houses in the greater Phoenix area. We just saw a case up in Bakersfield where a man got free and ran and asked for help because they were holding his wife and daughter. By the time somebody got out there, they had pulled those people out and put them in two other drop houses that were less than a mile from this house. So one of the first things it'll tell you is if they are storing people that have been brought in without documentation, that what is happening is that there's probably multiple ones around your neighborhood. So a stash house or a drop house are usually a house or a building, can be a warehouse. It can be an outhouse kind of thing, a separate building. It can be maybe a commercial, industrial looking building, but it's often a rental house. Now, it can be a house that is owned by someone, but most often they will rent a house. And they will usually rent this house as a front from somebody. In other words, the person renting the house isn't the person that you're seeing in that house. So they will consolidate people. They will bring them up across the border. And many of the people they're bringing up, even though they are breaking a federal law, many of them are very fine people who just want what they want. Now, if I had my choice, I'd prefer that they came in, in a systematic order legally so that we would know who they are. But that system has been broken for a very, very long time. And we know that. And so the people come up here, but they pay a huge amount of money. I recently heard of a case of a girl who was 26 and she had two young girls, or two young children anyway, and they're holding her in one of these drop houses. Now, her family had already paid $30,000 to get across the border, but they're not releasing her, even though they paid this huge amount of money. They want another $6,000. And, they just make these numbers up. There isn't like a flow chart that says, okay, you pay this amount of money and you get this and you pay this and you get that. I mean, this is illegal operation, and it's going to be whatever the market is being charged and whether or not you get caught and whether or not you can get free without paying. It's a very scary business because you're dealing with cartels. It's an interesting kind of thing because it isn't like they all go home. The coyotes are part of a cartel and they deliver the people. It isn't like then they, turn their car around and go back and get another load. No, they will often stay here. I'm always kidding. You don't see buses of coyotes going home. They stay here. And so that means that oftentimes the people, even though they've arrived on our soil, are not free to go. In this one lady's case, she had already paid, the family had already paid $30,000. They wanted another $6,000. This woman and two children are being held in a house with one bathroom with 56 men. So that's called a drop house. So what do we look for? Well, this is big, big business. Now, a lot of times they'll purchase land in a remote area and hold them there. But what you're seeing is this is so prevalent that it's going on in our communities. So the first thing that you want to do is pay attention for any property that is like a rental property or an empty property in your area. So start with the idea of a rental house. What I would encourage you to do is know everyone on your block. Know them fairly well, interact with them regularly. How are you doing today? How's the job going? That kind of thing. But if you have a house that's rented out, everybody keep an eye on it. Rental houses, if they're empty, can be used for what they call a temporary brothel, where simply people pull up and all of a sudden you have a van load of people going in and out, a lot of men and maybe some women, and they will be having a temporary brothel go on, and it's usually only 4 to 6, 8 hours. If you have a rental house and suddenly people are showing up at that house and you don't see a moving van, I call the police immediately. because that could be forced sex trafficking, number one. Number two is that somebody in there could be being violated. So it ought to be looked into. And if you have a rental house, it would be good if a couple of people on your block know the landlord, know where they live, know, are they moving out? Are they getting new renters? Are they advertising? Are they expecting someone to come in and like that? So know your block, know everybody on your block if you can, and know what you can about them. This is very, very important because a lot of times you can protect your block from crime by knowing everybody on your block and keeping an eye out if, someone from out of state is showing up, or a van suddenly shows up and a bunch of people show up and it doesn't look like a normal area. Now, we're talking about what we call a drop house, where they're bringing a lot of people. So they're usually near the freeway. That's important for easy on and easy off. They will usually have an attached garage to them because vans will pull in late at night and early morning to load and unload people. The windows are usually closed off, whether it's blinds or paper over the window, blankets over the window, that kind of thing. You'll have it set up where it's usually closed off. It's not normal living activity. It isn't like children are going to school and dad comes home from work and that kind of thing. They have very odd hours. There may be a man that or woman, but usually a man, sitting out front, and maybe he's reading a magazine or a paper. I don't know if anybody reads the newspaper anymore, but you know what I mean. Maybe he's on his little cell phone and he's just relaxing. And there's usually a guard dog around there, something like a pit bull or something that is, an animal known for being trained for being like a guard dog. They may have a raised front porch, okay, where maybe they're stashing people on there. There may be outbuildings in the back where people are being held, or buildings that have raised off the ground where they can store people in there. They may have a building with a basement where they're holding people. Usually the locks are on the outside of these kinds of buildings, or the windows you will see have nails in them or screws in them so that they cannot be opened. There's a famous case where they used some screwed the windows shut so people can't get out. People coming and going late night is a very common one that is going on there. They may have security bars on the windows, or the windows are fortified in some way so that people can't get out. So they may have excessive amounts of trash in the back and the front yard, large quantity of discarded ramen noodles or eggs or other bulk food packaging, so that people, because they're not cooking meals in there, they're holding these people and holding them for ransom, and they're not interested in making it comfortable for them. No activity at late night with numerous people coming and going from the house very late at night. Or if it's an attached garage, you'll see vans pull in late night and early morning. And then you'll also sometimes see vehicles that are stripped down that enter and exit from a backyard. All of these things are kind of indicators that maybe we should keep an eye on it. Protect yourself. Don't get involved with it. But if you see something like that, I'd certainly report it and report it to law enforcement. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is brought to you by Million Kids. We're talking about stories and structures with stories and what to watch for in your neighborhood to prevent crime. So I'm going to ask you to stay with us. That's break time. We'll be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.